So here we are. Welcome to episode number 2. First thing I did was to set up stakes and strings to kind of get an idea of where this bridge was going to go. This is the creek that it's going across without the water in it. You can see the strings in the background. Then I had to dig some holes and put some steel posts in because this deck, when I started kind of wanting to hook it together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, those are the number of posts that were rotten. And I don't mean just like deteriorated, but like not even connected to the ground anymore, rotten, which left some concrete underneath. But I called my good buddy Jason. He brought a couple of his guys and a skid steer with a big thing on the front of it to dig holes with, and they got after it. And I got to tell you, I got to hand it to Jason and his boys. These guys really know their stuff. They took and placed those sonotubes, which are forms. First they dug the holes, and then they took those forms and set them in place over the holes, and they were very meticulous in making sure that they hit those marks that I had put out, that they hit the points where the pillars needed to go exactly, so that when it was all said and done, everything was lined up, everything was level. You could see, it's well braced. The holes under the ground, these ones closest to us, the holes were probably 3 feet below and then 3 feet above. Then it was time for concrete. So Jason made a phone call. Truck shows up, pumper truck shows up. So the truck pumps the concrete into the pumper, and then the pumper sends it down the hose to the forms, and the guys just started filling them up. Once they got fairly close, we had to do these 4 sonotubes, and in the foreground there on the right, you'll notice some forms in place to put an abutment or a concrete base underneath those steel posts at the top, this part right here. Once they got all those filled and leveled, I had a conversation with Jason there, as you can see him there kind of spreading things around. And I said, I was like, how many days do I got to leave these before we, are ready to take the forms apart? It'll be dry enough to release the forms, not knowing much about concrete. And he said, well, a couple hours, so when we were all done, we sat down, had some waters and some sandwiches, and all of a sudden he goes, all right, let's take them apart. So me and the guy there got to it, and they just, once they got them all leveled and square, they said, all right, it's time to start cutting them apart. So they did. And it was pretty cool. We got out there with the trowel and smoothed them all up real nice, and then they decided to put a bit of a bevel around the top edge, and so he worked on that, got them all looking smooth and nice. So once it was all said and done, this is what it looked like. I had 4 posts and two abutments, and then it was time to start putting the deck back together. So I made these plates, these angle iron squares that went over the top, and then I welded those in place. And it was so that the outside supports of the deck could have something to sit on. So I welded those up, being the stellar welder that I am, still trying to figure out how to do it, learning how to do it. It's been a fun process. That little welder I bought there did pretty cool. So there you can see the outside boards are in place. Then it was time to start pulling out some of these concrete posts. And I gotta tell you, I hate pulling concrete out of the ground. So I thought, I'm gonna be creative. I got some steel shelving pieces from my garage, some tow chain, and a winch. And I'm not gonna say this was easy. It wasn't. It was a whole lot easier than digging them out. I had to call for my assistant. My lovely wife, Tracy, showed up, and after several tries of getting the chain to stick, we kind of figured out how to make it work, and crank, and look at that. Concrete's out of the ground. So my initial plan, thanks, Trace, my initial plan was to, dig a hole and pour more concrete and set another post for each one of these, and then I was introduced to a thing called a tough block, and I decided to try those. So basically you need a flat surface to start with, so that's what I'm doing there. Then I dropped this tough block. It's a hard fiberglass or plastic based product. The top you can set a 4x4 post in vertically, or you can put 2x4s in horizontally. So I got the old school string line here to kind of figure out how tall my post needed to be. High tech there, I know. I'm sure you'll love to comment on that one. But anyway, got out the old 4x4 post, cut that thing to the correct length, set it in place, and I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of these things, man. If those things ever rotted again 10 years from now and I had to replace them, no concrete digging. You just unscrew them, pull them out, stick a new one in there, put some more screws back, you're done. So then obviously the next step of the process was to put all this deck back together. So I started doing it. If you'll notice that the older part of the deck there is in 2 levels. That higher level, the original owner had, or a previous owner at least, had a hot tub underneath there. And so when they took that out, they just opted to deck over the whole thing. So in order for me to make all of this match, I would have to take all of that out. And financially, I wasn't quite ready to do that yet. So I opted just to go ahead and replace the parts that I had to tear up in order to put those steel posts in that you can see there with some nice primer on them. Lovely shade of brown. They will get painted black eventually. So through the magic of YouTube, you can watch me doing this really, really fast. Just cutting the boards, putting it back in place. You can see the post sticking up there. You can see one there too as well. In the background, there was a railing there, and I'm trying to match that. Instead of reinventing the wheel here, I'm just going to basically put back what was there before and attach it to these concrete posts. I did get some self-tapping screws to screw those wooden fascia boards there to the steel posts. But then it was just a simple matter of getting it all level and square, throw a couple top cappers on it, and then this side was pretty much done. Then through the magic of YouTube, you can see me do the other side real quick, and before you know it, my deck is back together and in place. So here's kind of the final result. Obviously I have to hide what's in the middle there because I didn't do this necessarily chronologically, but that's for the next video. So please come back, like and subscribe, and watch the next one. Thanks for watching.